Imagine waking up one day and realizing that a kid from a small town in North Carolina, a kid who recorded videos alone in his bedroom for years without a single view, is now worth over $500 million. Not from acting, not from inheritance, not from some lucky investment, from YouTube, from giving away money on camera, from burying people alive and letting them eat worms and launching rockets into the sky, all in the name of content. Jimmy Donaldson, the man the world knows as MrBeast, has built one of the most improbable financial empires in the history of the internet, and he did it in roughly a decade. $500 million. A chocolate company that sold over $1 billion in product in a single year. A burger chain that appeared out of nowhere and became one of the most talked about fast food brands on the planet. A philanthropy operation that has fed millions of people and planted over 20 million trees. How does a teenager with a camera and no connections pull that off? What decisions did he make that nobody else was willing to make? And what can the rest of us actually learn from a journey this extraordinary? That's exactly what we're going to break down today, piece by piece, dollar by dollar, challenge by challenge. Stay with us, because this story is wilder than any of the videos he's ever posted. Jimmy Donaldson was born on May 7, 1998, in Wichita, Kansas, which makes him a Taurus, and if you know anything about Tauruses, you know they're stubborn, determined, and almost pathologically focused on building something lasting. That stubbornness would become his greatest asset. His family relocated to Greenville, North Carolina, while he was still young, and that mid-sized southern city, not Hollywood, not New York, not Silicon Valley, would become the unlikely launchpad for a $500 million media empire. His mother, Sue, worked hard to raise Jimmy and his brothers in a modest household. His father was largely absent during key parts of his upbringing, which meant Jimmy grew up understanding that if he wanted something, he was going to have to go get it himself. That lesson embedded itself deep. Greenville isn't the kind of place you'd expect to produce a global media titan. It's a college town, home to East Carolina University, and it has the quiet, unhurried energy of the American South. There are no major film studios nearby, no venture capital networks, no YouTube creator houses or talent incubators. What Greenville had was a kid with too much time, a second-hand camera, and a dial-up internet connection that slowly upgraded into something he could actually upload videos from. Jimmy was around 13 years old when he started his first YouTube channel in 2012. He was awkward on camera. His production quality was essentially non-existent. His first videos were gaming content, commentary over Minecraft, Call of Duty, and other games popular with teenagers at the time. Almost nobody watched them. For years, almost nobody watched them. In school, Jimmy was not what you'd describe as a traditional academic success story. He was disengaged in class, frequently distracted, and by his own admission, obsessed with YouTube to a degree that his teachers found concerning and his mother found alarming. He spent his teenage years reverse engineering viral videos, studying what made them work, and obsessively tracking analytics on his own channel even when those analytics were essentially zero. He had no formal media training, no drama club experience, no connections in entertainment. What he had was an extraordinary capacity for obsession and a willingness to spend thousands of hours doing something that wasn't paying off yet. He graduated high school and briefly considered college, reportedly enrolling at East Carolina University before dropping out almost immediately to pursue YouTube full-time. That bet on himself, made with essentially no financial cushion, is one of the defining moments of his story. The early years of MrBeast on YouTube are almost painful to watch in retrospect. Between 2012 and roughly 2016, Jimmy posted hundreds of videos that went largely unnoticed. He experimented constantly: worst intros on YouTube, estimating net worths of other creators, random commentary on whatever was trending. He was learning in public, failing in public, and accumulating a level of platform knowledge that most professional media executives still don't have. He watched every video that went viral and asked why. He studied every thumbnail, every title, every retention curve. He became, through sheer volume of self-education, one of the most sophisticated YouTube strategists on the planet. And then, in January 2017, everything changed. The video was simple by later MrBeast standards. Jimmy sat on camera and counted to 100,000 out loud over the course of roughly 44 hours. It was absurd, it was pointless, it was hypnotic, and it exploded. The video didn't just go viral, it established a template. Extreme commitment to an insane premise. Patience as a performance. Endurance as entertainment. That video crossed 1 million views and signaled to Jimmy and to YouTube's algorithm that something was happening here. Within months, he was growing faster than almost anyone on the platform. What followed between 2017 and 2019 was a period of creative acceleration that would define MrBeast as a format. Jimmy leaned into stunts, challenges, and giveaways with a ferocity that his contemporaries simply couldn't match, partly because they couldn't afford to, and partly because they weren't willing to reinvest revenue back into production at the rate Jimmy was. In late 2017, he gave away $10,000 to a homeless man on camera. Then he tipped a pizza delivery driver $10,000. Then he gave away $100,000. Each video was more expensive than the last, and each video brought in enough ad revenue and sponsorship money to fund the next one. He was running YouTube like a venture-backed startup. Every dollar earned went immediately back into making a bigger, more expensive, more shareable video. By 2018, MrBeast had crossed 10 million subscribers. He was spending more money per video than most mid-level Hollywood productions. He hired his childhood friends Chris Tyson, Chandler Hefner, and later others not because they had media experience, but because he trusted them and because the chemistry between them on camera was genuine and watchable. He built a team not of professionals but of believers. The content kept escalating. He planted 20 million trees in partnership with the Arbor Day Foundation in a campaign that raised over $20 million and genuinely shifted the conversation about what YouTube creators could accomplish in the real world. He gave away a private island. He rebuilt an entire house for a family. He recreated Squid Game with real human contestants and a real prize of $456,000, a video that became one of the most watched YouTube videos in history with over 500 million views. By 2022, MrBeast had crossed 100 million subscribers, becoming one of the fastest channels in YouTube history to hit that milestone. His main channel today sits at over 330 million subscribers, making it one of the most subscribed individual creator channels on the planet. But here's where the story gets genuinely interesting, because Jimmy Donaldson didn't just build a YouTube channel. He built an empire, and the financial architecture of that empire is more sophisticated than most people realize. Let's talk about money, because the numbers here are extraordinary. In MrBeast's early years, YouTube ad revenue was the only income stream. Even as his channel grew, that revenue had a ceiling. YouTube pays creators somewhere between $2 and $10 per thousand views, depending on content category and advertiser demand. Even at peak ad revenue, a creator making tens of millions of views per month was looking at a few $100,000, maybe $1 million a year. Not enough to fund the kind of videos MrBeast was making. Not nearly enough. The bridge between content cost and ad revenue was sponsorships, and Jimmy became one of the most effective sponsored content creators in platform history. Companies like Honey, Quid, and later major consumer brands paid millions per video for integrations that felt native to MrBeast's style: brief, loud, enthusiastic, and delivered to an audience that trusted Jimmy implicitly. Sponsorship fees that might have been $100,000 per video in 2018 were crossing $1 million per video by 2021. But even that wasn't the real play. The real play was MrBeast Burger. In December 2020, Jimmy launched MrBeast Burger as a ghost kitchen concept, meaning no physical restaurant locations, just existing restaurant kitchens preparing MrBeast branded food for delivery through apps like DoorDash and Uber Eats. The launch day was staggering. The app crashed. Tens of thousands of orders flooded in from hundreds of participating restaurant locations across the country. Within a year, MrBeast Burger had become one of the most downloaded food apps in America and had expanded to over 1,700 locations. The business model was brilliant in its simplicity: minimal overhead, no lease costs, built-in audience, and a brand name that millions of young people already trusted. Revenue estimates for MrBeast Burger in its peak years have ranged from $100 million to several $100 million annually, though the partnership structure with virtual dining concepts has also created friction. Jimmy has been publicly critical of product quality issues, and the relationship between MrBeast and his restaurant partner has reportedly been complicated. What the venture proved, however, was that the MrBeast brand could sell physical products to a massive audience with almost no traditional marketing spend. Then came Feastables. Launched in January 2022, Feastables is Jimmy's own chocolate and snack brand, fully owned, not a licensing arrangement. The initial product was a line of chocolate bars sold online and in retail, and the launch strategy was pure MrBeast: buy a bar, scan the code, potentially win $1 million or a Tesla or a trip on a private jet. The gamification of snack food. Within its first year, Feastables generated over $10 million in revenue. Within 2 years, reports indicated the company was tracking toward and eventually surpassed $1 billion in annual revenue. Feastables is now sold in major retail chains across the United States and internationally. It is, by almost any measure, one of the fastest-growing consumer food brands in recent history, and it was built on the back of a YouTube audience rather than traditional consumer packaged goods infrastructure. The financial picture that emerges from MrBeast's business ventures is striking. Forbes estimated his earnings at around $54 million in 2021, making him the highest-paid YouTuber on the platform that year. By 2023 and 2024, estimates of his total annual income from all sources, YouTube ad revenue, sponsorships, Feastables, MrBeast burger, merchandise, and production deals ranged from $80 million to over $150 million per year. His total net worth, factoring in equity in Feastables, his production company, and other assets, is widely cited at approximately $500 million as of early 2025, with some estimates pushing higher depending on how Feastables' equity is valued. For context, he achieved this before his 27th birthday. There is no precedent for this in the history of digital media. The production company behind MrBeast's content has also grown into a substantial operation. Jimmy employs over 250 people across his various businesses, including a dedicated team of video producers, editors, logistics coordinators, and business development staff. Production budgets for individual MrBeast videos now routinely exceed $1 million, and major spectacle videos have reportedly cost $3 to $5 million to produce. The operation in Greenville, North Carolina, which Jimmy has largely stayed loyal to, continuing to base his production there rather than relocating to Los Angeles, includes dedicated studio space, warehouses for storing props and equipment, and a logistics infrastructure that would be recognizable to any mid-sized television production company. Beyond the commercial ventures, Jimmy has invested significantly in philanthropy, and it's worth noting that the philanthropic work is not purely a PR strategy, it's constitutively part of the MrBeast brand in a way that most celebrity-charity relationships are not. The Beast Philanthropy channel, launched in 2020, donates 100% of its ad revenue and sponsor income to charitable causes. The channel has funded food banks, built wells in Africa, provided surgeries to restore sight for thousands of people with curable blindness, funded hearing aids, and provided housing to families experiencing homelessness. The Team Trees campaign alone planted over 20 million trees. These aren't incidental acts of charity, they are core content produced and distributed with the same production quality as the main channel, and they have driven subscriber growth and brand loyalty in ways that traditional marketing simply cannot replicate. In terms of the broader media landscape, Jimmy has also made calculated moves to extend the MrBeast brand beyond YouTube. A deal with Amazon Prime Video resulted in a competition series called Beast Games, which premiered in late 2024. The show featured 1,000 contestants competing for $5 million, the largest prize in game show history. It became the most watched unscripted series premiere in Amazon Prime Video history, drawing an audience that crossed from YouTube into traditional streaming in a way that had eluded most digital creators. The Amazon deal is reported to have been worth in the range of $100 million, representing both a massive payday and a strategic validation of the MrBeast brand in mainstream entertainment contexts. Jimmy has also been involved in investments and equity stakes in various companies, though he's been relatively private about the specifics of his investment portfolio. He has discussed real estate ownership, though unlike many celebrities of his wealth level, he has not been conspicuous about property acquisitions. His lifestyle, by the standards of someone worth $500 million, has been notably modest. He's spoken publicly about not owning a particularly extravagant home, driving normal cars, and reinvesting obsessively back into the business. This is either a calculated personal brand decision or a genuine reflection of his values, most likely both. What most people don't know about the MrBeast operation is how analytically sophisticated the content strategy actually is. Jimmy and his team A or B test thumbnails obsessively, analyzing click-through rates across different visual options before committing to a final image. They track audience retention graphs frame by frame, cutting content that causes viewer drop-off with surgical precision. They research competitors' analytics. They study algorithm behavior patterns. Jimmy has described his approach to YouTube in terms that sound more like quantitative finance than creative content hypothesis: test, measure, iterate, scale. The creative spectacle is real, but it sits on top of an analytical infrastructure that is genuinely world-class. His approach to hiring and team building also deserves examination. Jimmy has talked openly about his management philosophy, which prioritizes cultural fit and shared obsession over credentials or formal experience. His earliest hires were childhood friends who shared his passion for content creation. His later hires have been specialists recruited for specific technical skills: video editors, cinematographers, logistics managers, data analysts. The organizational culture he has built is reportedly intense: long hours, high expectations, extreme focus on output quality, but also genuinely mission-driven. People who work for MrBeast tend to describe it as the most demanding professional experience of their lives and simultaneously the most creatively fulfilling. There have also been challenges and controversies. In 2023, Chris Tyson, one of Jimmy's longest-standing collaborators and friends, began hormone replacement therapy and came out as transgender, which triggered significant online harassment and calls from some segments of MrBeast's audience for Jimmy to distance himself from Chris. Jimmy's response was direct and unambiguous. He expressed support for Chris publicly and declined to make any business or creative changes based on the controversy. The moment was revealing of Jimmy's character and also, perhaps, strategically calculated. The MrBeast audience is large enough and diverse enough that standing by a friend was the right call both morally and commercially. Questions have also arisen about workplace conditions within the MrBeast production operation. Former employees have described high-pressure environments with demanding expectations, though Jimmy has addressed these concerns publicly and made structural changes to the organization. The scrutiny that comes with operating a $500 million media company is qualitatively different from the scrutiny applied to a YouTube channel, and Jimmy has had to navigate that transition in real time without a corporate communications infrastructure designed for crisis management. Looking at where MrBeast stands in early 2025 and where the enterprise is heading, several threads are clear. The Amazon Prime partnership and Beast Games represent a deliberate push into mainstream entertainment that is likely to continue. Feastables is on a trajectory toward becoming a major consumer packaged goods brand that could eventually operate independently of Jimmy's personal platform presence. The international expansion of MrBeast's content with dedicated channels in Spanish, Portuguese, Hindi, Arabic, French, and other languages, each with tens of millions of subscribers, represents a genuine global media footprint that most traditional networks haven't achieved. Jimmy has spoken about his aspirations to build something that outlasts him, a brand and a business that could continue to operate and create value even if he were no longer the primary on-camera talent. He has also expressed interest in eventually producing content across formats: feature films, television series, interactive experiences that go beyond the YouTube challenge format that made him famous. The Amazon deal is the first serious step in that direction. There are reports of additional streaming partnerships in development and of the Beast production company developing scripted content for the first time. Whether those ventures will succeed is genuinely uncertain. The history of YouTube creators transitioning to Hollywood is complicated, and the qualities that make MrBeast extraordinary on YouTube don't automatically translate to scripted narrative. But the resources, the audience, and the creative ambition are all present. The lessons embedded in MrBeast's story are worth extracting carefully because they're not the lessons most people expect. This is not a story about talent in the conventional sense. Jimmy Donaldson is not a trained actor, a trained comedian, a trained filmmaker, or a trained business executive. What he is, beyond any other descriptor, is a learner. He has spent his entire career in a state of aggressive self-education, studying what works, refusing to accept the first answer, and being willing to be wrong publicly and correct course. The willingness to post content that embarrasses him in retrospect and to look back at his early videos and acknowledge how bad they were is not humility for its own sake. It's evidence of a growth orientation that has compounded over a decade into genuine mastery. The reinvestment philosophy is also a lesson that gets underestimated. Most creators, when they start making money, upgrade their lifestyle. Jimmy upgraded his production. He made his videos better. He gave more money away. He hired more people. He treated every dollar earned as fuel for the next phase of growth rather than a reward for the previous phase. This is, fundamentally, a startup mindset applied to creative content, and it's the reason MrBeast's production quality and scale have kept pace with his subscriber growth in a way that almost no other creator in platform history has managed. The philanthropic integration is also genuinely instructive. In a media landscape saturated with sponsored content and transactional relationships between creators and audiences, Jimmy has created something rarer: trust. His audience believes, with considerable justification, that he actually cares about the people he's helping and the causes he's supporting. That trust is worth more than any advertising deal because it converts a subscriber into something closer to a fan in the deepest sense: someone who will buy your chocolate bar, download your burger app, watch your Amazon show, and tell their friends to do the same. The commercial and the philanthropic are not separate strategies. They are the same strategy. For anyone watching this who is building something: a channel, a business, a brand, a career, the MrBeast story offers one particularly uncomfortable challenge. Most people want to succeed without being willing to look bad. For as long as Jimmy looked bad, he posted for 5 years before he had a major viral moment. 5 years of low-view videos, of embarrassing production quality, of essentially talking to nobody. The willingness to endure that period, not grudgingly, but enthusiastically, because he was learning, is what separated him from the thousands of other creators who tried and quit. The talent came after the work. The success came after the talent. In that order, and no other. Jimmy Donaldson, MrBeast, is 26 years old. He has built a media and consumer goods enterprise worth approximately $500 million, employs hundreds of people, has fed millions through his philanthropic work, and has fundamentally changed what a single creator with a camera can accomplish on the internet. The main channel has over 330 million subscribers. Feastables is a billion-dollar brand. Beast Games made Amazon Prime history. And he is, by any reasonable assessment, just getting started. There is a version of this story that treats Jimmy as a 1 in a billion anomaly, someone whose success is so specific to his moment, his platform, and his personality that no general lessons can be extracted from it. That version is wrong. The lessons are there, and they're available to anyone who's willing to study, to work, to fail publicly, to reinvest relentlessly, and to build something real before building something profitable. That's the MrBeast playbook. It's not complicated. It's just extremely difficult. And it works. If you've made it this far, you already know you're the kind of person who wants to understand success at a deeper level than the headlines allow. Drop a comment below telling us which MrBeast video you think best represents the peak of what he's built. We want to know your take. If you want more deep dives like this one into the people and companies reshaping media, money, and culture, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. The next video is going to cover someone whose financial story is just as wild as this one, and we think it might actually surprise you. We'll see you there.